Hey, manufacturing world, welcome to another episode of Shop Matters, sponsored by Okuma America. This podcast is created to talk about all things manufacturing related. I'm your host, Wade Anderson, and today in the studio joining me, I've got John Tuohy with FANUC Robotics. John, thanks for joining us here in Chicago.
Chicago?
No, sorry. Actually, we're in Charlotte now. We should have been in Chicago this week.
Yeah, we should be participating in the IMTS show and taking advantage of everything that Chicago has to offer, but we'll find other avenues, and I believe AMT is propagated other avenues for us.
Right. We are excited. We're participating in IMTs Spark and IMTS Network as well. I'm assuming FANUC is?
Yes, FANUC is participating as well.
All right. So one of the things that I think is exciting, if you can find, there's always good parts of any bad part, right? So as bad as COVID is and the way it's changed business, some of the positive things that comes out of it is we're forced to embrace and use new technologies. And I look at IMTS, take a big company, name whatever company you can think of in your head. Honeywell. Okay, how many people do they send physically to IMTS? 5, 10, 15 people maybe? So you get, just relatively speaking.
I think many of the large manufacturers, they would use the IMTS space as an opportunity for, John Deere, Caterpillar, and all the large people, especially that are in that region of Chicago, to come and see the opportunities to see technologies that are being propagated by Okuma, FANUC, and all the other people that participate in the trade show.
But physically, you've got a small percentage of people from the group of the company that can go physically to see it. We're using the virtual world, IMTS Spark in this case, everybody can see it.
Yeah,
everybody in the company. So now instead of 5, 10, 15 people from a company, you can have 1,000 people from that company logging in and now seeing everything that you're offering. So I think it's a unique opportunity and a way to make a positive out of an unfortunate circumstance of the physical show being postponed.
Yeah, I agree. The opportunities for us to network virtually, although nothing will ever replace the in-person meeting, but the opportunities to network virtually and also show our technologies to everyone instead of those select few that were actually approved to ever travel to IMTS or a trade show for that matter.
Right. Well, enough about trade shows. John, let's introduce you. Who is John Tuohy? How long have you been with FANUC? And tell us a little bit about FANUC.
Oh, sure. I'd love to. Again, I started my career at Schunk. I was with Schunk for just under 20 years and was one of the people that was helped develop Schunk in the United States. And in 2016, I was approached by FANUC to come and work directly for them in the machine tool space, and I was honored and flattered. So I've been at FANUC for about 5 years. My current role, I'm in the machine tool role in the ASI group, and I truly embrace this because in this segment of our business, we make stuff. Mm-hmm. We assist people like Okuma. We assist the people to make sure that their equipment is more productive, and it's an honor to be able to work with companies such as yourself that can help us improve the manufacturing landscape in North America.
Right. So I knew you from back in the Schunk days and now transitioned to FANUC, and we work closely together on the Partners and Think side of things. So, I always enjoy working with our partner companies. It gives us an opportunity to try to educate the marketplace on new ways of doing things. What are new technologies? What are new principles that you can apply to your manufacturing floor? I always like the line about, we've done it this way because we've always done it that way. To me, there's mountains of opportunity when somebody says that. So we've worked together from a FANUC perspective with Partners and Think over 10 years now.
Oh, yeah, easy. Yeah. Just to reference an article that was written by your CEO, Jim King, he basically the title of the article was A New Era of Manufacturing. And when I read his article, I realized that it could have been written by a robot guy. It was a very interesting article from the perspective that he understands that COVID and what we're doing today is going to be a way to reshape the way we address how we address industry, whether it's supply line, whether it's ease of use, whether it's improving productivity and quality. In his article, he addressed many of these topics. It was a very interesting article, and for those of you who are listening today, I would highly encourage you to search Jim King on LinkedIn and find that article. It's a very short 3-minute read, but it was very, very informative.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I had an opportunity to take a look at it and read through it myself, and there's so much good information in a very short amount of time. you think about what manufacturers today are facing. Every downturn in the economy, and in this case, we're dealing with a global pandemic. People have to find a way to thrive and survive in a new, changing environment. If you look at what manufacturers have to do, they have to become more productive. They got to maintain profitability in a changing landscape. So how do you do that? How do you block and tackle and start finding where's the low-hanging fruit, and then how do we address those points? Automation obviously is a major part of that. So
huge.
What does FANUC do? How do you guys look at it when you are approaching projects and customers today in today's environment?
Well, in today's environment, one thing that I'd like to point out is FANUC globally did not lay off or lose one employee due to COVID.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was a concerted effort, global effort, because we understand that whether it was in the throes of this pandemic in which we find ourselves and moving forward, automation and robotics are going to be the key to taking our manufacturing environment to the next level. Onshoring and nearshoring is a real thing. So at FANUC, we are making sure we have the necessary inventory, the training. We have gone from in-person and virtual training, and FANUC has 22 training locations, or 22 locations throughout, of which 6 of them provide training on site. Well, as the on-site visits have become a little more difficult to manage, we go virtual. So our training classes, not only do we have a library of online classes, but we also perform virtual classes for specific customers that aren't comfortable to travel at this point.
Right. Now, I'm a people person. I enjoy, just like this, sitting here face to face. But I do believe that virtual is going to be part of the reality moving forward in some form or fashion. I think we've proven through this pandemic, I know at least for us at Okuma, everybody's really been grounded, right? We can't travel, we can't go visit customers. So all the teams, myself included, that traveled 50, 80, 90%, all of a sudden we find ourselves working at home or working remote or working in the office, but we're still able to get work done. We're still able to meet with customers and work on projects because we've embraced virtual machine runoffs, virtual test cuts and demos, using Zoom and Skype and Teams and all the other tools. A lot of those tools have been around for a long time. We just didn't really gravitate or embrace them. Now we're forced to, and we realize, hey, we're still cooking. We're still maintaining business. We're still moving projects forward, and we haven't put people on airplane seats, and we're still making things happen. So I think moving forward, I think there's a lot of companies that have realized the same thing, and people jumping on an airplane to go fly and take a look or do a machine demo, I think those days are drastically going to change, and we're going to be doing more stuff remote and virtually. So doing virtual training and things that you guys are working on, that's something we have to embrace, and we have to find new ways of executing these things.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the ways we've done it, and I've done a couple of them myself, is the customer was on the floor just using FaceTime.
Yeah.
Looking at the application, checking out the work holding of his fixture so we could figure out how to load it with the robot. So the technology, yeah, we've had it for years. We've just never really found ways to optimize it, how to use it to make ourselves more efficient in business. And moving forward, I see more of it. We'll never replace the in-person meeting.
Right.
Relationships are built that way, and we are a relationship business. There are a lot of us. Okuma sells itself. FANUC sells itself. Both of our companies have great names in industry, but it's still a people business.
It is. There's things, body language, gestures and things like that it's hard to get that through a Teams meeting.
It is.
Obviously we do these podcasts, and I probably owe Kermit Wright and the team at MP Systems another podcast, because we tried one using Teams, and it was okay. Their content was phenomenal, but there is something about that interaction that you just you can't replicate that sometimes virtually that you would like to. So let's talk a little bit about technologies and what FANUC does from the robotics standpoint. That's the primary area where Okuma and FANUC interface. I'm getting tongue-tied myself. Interface together. Talk about current technologies that you have. What are some cool applications that you see in the field? What's some things that customers have utilized technology maybe in a different way? Everybody sees a robot moving a product, moving a part in and out of a machine. Are there any other kind of cool applications that you've been a part of that you've seen as raised a manufacturer's level of productivity or profitability to a new level?
Oh yeah, of course. In the automation environment, it's not just one company that makes a solution. We rely on companies for EAOETs. We rely on companies for potentially other vision if it's not an IR vision product. So there are a lot of companies in a space. In fact, a lot of the companies in the Partners and Think, MP and Pumps you just mentioned, all of us work together to create a solution for the Okuma customer. The technologies that come along with it. So with the onshoring and nearshoring, when those jobs left in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't necessarily that GM decided to build a car in China. It was the entire support community that was taken. So by bringing these jobs back, it's not just bringing back the manufacturing of the Volt or whatever car they were making over in China, but bringing that back also then builds that supplier community. So we now have the partners of companies that have to build together to support that project or that plant. The technologies we're deploying, you're going to see that the major OEMs that can afford to do automation to the hilt, they will use area scanners and force sensors and other types of components that make that make the robot smart. They give it eyes, they give it hands, basically. And that's always done with partner companies on many instances. But when you bring this community back, it's not always the large manufacturers that benefit. It's the smaller shops that benefit from that. And sometimes they may not have the budgets to do a full-blown automation project because they're making parts with pennies on the profit. But nonetheless, they're going to be profiting with this nearshoring and onshoring. FANUC is coming up with products like the CRX robot that will help us deploy at a quicker scale because it's easy to deploy, it's easy to set up, and it's extremely easy to program.
So what is a CRX? Explain like your nomenclature. If I'm looking at, go back many years, the LR Mate, things like that. What is the CRX?
So the CRX is a brand new release from FANUC. It was released back at January at the IREX show. It was the first time it was made public. But it is a brand new collaborative robot. It's a brand new collaborative design. And the thing that will change the industry from the cobot perspective is we provide FANUC reliability and lifetime on the FANUC CRS. The typical cobot, by the admission of the companies that manufacture them, and this can be researched easily just by going to any web page of any cobot manufacturer, they typically catalog about a 30,000 hour life. As a standard, FANUC probably will never produce a product that won't give us at least 100,000 hours mean time between failure. So we tested the CRX, and FANUC wasn't the first to the market with the collaborative robot. If you call, and for those of you who are well versed with the FANUC product, we had the CR robots, which were the green ones. And those were really just built off platforms that exist currently, the LR Mate you mentioned,
right,
and then also the M20. But with those products, it gave FANUC the largest offering of collaborative robots in the market today. The CRX now will just complete that offering. So we will be able to provide an industrial robot that's designed for industrial applications but adapted to be a collaborative robot. We do that by putting a force sensor, so you still get the advantages of an industrial robot, the rigidity, the accuracy, and it's a robot the kinematic has been around for 15, 20 years. So FANUC has done one of the products we have that we just released, it's been around, but it's been now more predominant. It's called QSSR, which is an acronym for Quick Simple Startup of Robotization. It is a one-wire connection between the FANUC robot and the FANUC control. And when we have that connection, it all of a sudden gives the point of use. We can do jog movements from the HMI and the CNC on the robo drill. And we can also do other slight moves in programming from the HMI as well. The whole idea is to make the deployment of the robot much easier, simpler for the customer.
Okay, very good. What's the future look like? You look out 5 years from now, where do you see FANUC in your products? What's on the horizon we should know about?
Well, I would love to see a product where I take my robot and I plug it into the CNC control and everything populates like my iPhone. I think the next generation of robot controller and machine controller, they're going to expect that plug-and-play functionality and simplicity simply.
Right. Okay. We're very close to that now with the interfaces that we've got. I go back to my days working with robots, and it was a fire hose full of discrete IOs that we're wiring up, and nowadays it's a Ethernet signal, right?
Yeah.
So we're plugging in a Ethernet cable, dropping power to it, and then all that handshaking is completely streamlined from what it used to be. So you think that's kind of where the future generations of what FANUC's working on is going to be even more
Simplistic.
simplistic designs.
Yes. So
Excellent.
easier to use, easier to deploy. Connected smart manufacturing, I believe, is going to be what's driving the machinist decision making in the process. With the way we can now look at data and what the machine tool is doing, we can actually predict tool path. We can look at different avenues to make a part with fewer drop parts, higher quality, better tool life. We can use data from the machine tool and data from the robot to gain insights on OEE operations. So there's a lot of things that are coming that aren't necessarily inherent to what we've done traditionally. What makes a good machine tool operator? He's got a great set of ears. The machine literally talks to him. He understands when he hears the nuances of the machine. Well, if a human can hear it, I guarantee you we can sense it. And then 5-10 years down the road, maybe AI now is helping us design toolpath, design part programs so we don't have drop. When you're making a $100,000 blisk, you do not want that tool to mess up. Right. So using AI could potentially, and will, in my opinion, change the way we actually control our machines.
All right. Excellent. I think that's about all the time we've got for today.
I appreciate it very much, Wade.
John, thank you for your time
thank you for
joining
inviting
us here. And we've covered everything from Chicago, from not being in Chicago to being virtual and utilizing virtual tools to new applications and technologies that FANUC's bringing to the table. How do people learn more about FANUC? If they want to learn more about FANUC Robotics and how to automate their systems, tell us how to get a hold of you.
The first thing I would recommend is the web. Reach out to www.fanucamerica.com, and you will have the opportunity to be directed to our CNC division or our robot group. And from there, also, you have about 55 guys throughout the country. I would suggest you contact your local FANUC salesperson and let us talk about how FANUC can offer your solution for the job shop. All
right. Well, thanks for joining us. Any thoughts, questions, or ideas for future podcasts, please reach out to us. You can see our sites at www.okuma.com/shop-matters.com. Thank you.
Thank you.